Hello, hello, salut. I am the Rastowich. Here's where we learn the way of the Yansui Rasta, which is to say, my kind of Ital. Please subscribe and begin your own kind of Yansui witchcraft. All roads lead to Rome. Home. Hi, how you doing? Okay, so this is finally job part 3. Job part 1 was about Melchizedek. There was actually a part A, part B. Job part 2 was about Yahushua, which is Jesus. This is job part 3 about the Lion of Judah. This is actually part B. There's going to be 2 parts. So this one I'm going to go over just real quick a bunch of like history and things like that. So I have it written down. I'm going to just read it so that I can get a bunch of information and keep the facts straight and not mess up and say the wrong thing and all this. Okay, so have you ever noticed every time a claim there's a Jah incarnate, it is debunked by other theists? This is why I did this 3-part series. Based on the scriptures that call the incarnate like unto, like what's my reference for that these people are Jah incarnate? The most important one is the like unto thing, and I'll go into that. And this is all based most likely on the great wizard named Hermes, aka Thoth, the author of the Emerald Tablet in Egypt. Let me explain. Somewhere between the 15th and 13th century, the philosophy and Kabbalah of Hermes, known as the Hermetic Order, took shape. Then, just after that, the end of the 12th century, began a new legend in the man Moses. Adam supposedly ordained Enoch after the wizard's order of Melchizedek, Melchizedek later being known as King of Salem. But Melchizedek ate and smoked herb with Abraham early in the 2nd millennium BCE. And that is where the name Melchizedek first appears. The name Melchizedek doesn't actually appear in... okay, I'll try to stick to it so I can get all this information in quickly. For more on Melchizedek, see part 1 of this series and the link in the description box. Part A and B of Melchizedek, part 1. So let's look at Moses. Moses was, according to the Yansui, a legend taken from Akhenaten, of Egypt, who was known as the first monotheist, though the Bible is not really a book of monotheism. Akhenaten was around 1353 BCE. Moses is said to be the author of the book of Genesis, which is not true. The book of Genesis is based on, as is the order of Melchizedek, on Adam. So the question now is, who was Adam? For a deep dive on that, see my video from my other channel, which is the 2nd video on this channel's playlist called Bible Discussions, and it is linked in the description box. If the legend were true, Adam would have had to have lived 50,000 years ago, because that's when supposedly language started, and he named everything, named himself. Again, see my deep dive video on Adam and Eve at the beginning of this playlist, Bible Descriptions, and there's a link in the description box. But who was Adam really? And when did language really begin? The oldest god is reputed to be, historically, Enki, E-N-K-I, Enki, god of the underworld and wisdom. He was known as our creator, but can the data back this up? And by the way, this is in Mesopotamia. It's a Mesopotamian legend. Human ancestors first left Africa around 2 million years ago, but the first humans left between 60,000 and 90,000 years ago. And the first real empire wasn't in Mesopotamia until it was established by the great African hunter Nimrod, who then took the coronation name Sargon of Akkad. By then, Hinduism's roots had begun in Asia, and besides that, experts still argue which religion is oldest, Mesopotamian or Egyptian. Google it, because you're probably thinking, nah, they all say it's Mesopotamia. Okay. The Egyptian god that began all, according to their religion in Egypt, was Atum, A-T-U-M, who was an intersex trans man. He is the creator in the Egyptian religion. This ideology came out of the pre-dynastic period. From noon, Atum created all. This ideology takes shape from 60,000 to 3,150 BCE, going into the Neolithic period. And the first empire of Mesopotamia wasn't until 2,330 BCE. So even though it is said the oldest god known to history was Enki of Mesopotamia, it is easy to see the legend of Atum antedates Enki by 4,000 years. So we say the first religion came from Mesopotamia, but it is more probable Mesopotamian things, including the language, have roots in Egypt. But the first writing and farming and fortress empires were in Mesopotamia. So we say it all started there. Now you can see why the book of Genesis says it all starts with Adam. It was the ideology of Atum from Egypt that the writers of Genesis took from to teach the creation story. The first pharaoh in Egypt was Menes, founding the first dynasty after unifying Egypt around 3,200 BCE. Unifying Upper Egypt, Ethiopia, and Lower Egypt, he then took the title Lord of the Two Lands. The first writings in Egypt, the oldest sentence in the Egyptian language, was in 2690 BCE, just after and around the same time as in Mesopotamia. The oldest Egyptian texts were the pyramid texts, around 2613 to 2181 BCE, where the legend of Atum comes from. So you can see that Mesopotamia, regardless of what the experts say, isn't even the best choice, isn't even the most probable thing that would be the real historical truth. It's just the first writings came from Mesopotamia. But, okay, I'm trying not to be repetitive. An interesting idea suggested by the Yan Sui is that Enki and Atum were an alien named Atum. The aliens were involved in the evolution of humans 2 million years ago, creating one or more babies with Homo habilis Neanderthal, ancestor of Homo erectus. And this brought us to Homo sapiens, humans. Having made this investment, the aliens began a new life in the ocean in their spaceship. Since even at light speed, it would take hundreds, if not thousands of years to get anywhere significant in a spaceship. So they already had been living for many generations in their spaceship, fueled probably by solar power and a Euro machine, growing their food and filtering their urine. So living deep in the ocean is no big deal. The Yan Sui believed they did it out of boredom and later love of their new home and new family. So in 6000 BCE, they decided to try to make an alliance with their children, the humans. But the humans were far too stupid, so they invented the idea of a god, a creator, Atum and Enki. Based on that, they, being our ancestors, did create us, our parents. They did this by exploiting the hilarious fact that humans didn't yet know how to make powerful light. How they did this is they had one of the aliens, a trans man named Atum, teach us how to write and gave us the pyramid texts. Then, giving us time to soak it all in, by the end of the 12th century, they had another alien named Hermes fine-tune it all with much wisdom, including the Order of Hermes, precursor to the Order of Melchizedek. So Atum, Hermes, and Melchizedek were actually aliens, Melchizedek being the last known to history, like a child growing up and moving out of their parents' house. This is why aliens and spaceships of great light, as well as gods of great light, light too great to look at, this is why they are all over the walls of ancient Egypt. Then, like I explained in part 2 of this series, Yahushua, aka Jesus, comes like unto Melchizedek after the order as first high priest. He was no alien, but, like all humans, is related to aliens. As our exemplar, Yahushua resets, modernizes the order of witchcraft. Now we could move past the Old Testament because of Yahushua. Now we are in the New Testament, which is what part B is all about. How to modernize and move past the New Testament.